I still can't hear anything. No. Yeah, it's still not coming through. Oh, yeah, yeah. We can hear you. Okay. Mhm.
Um, some of our other students have sort of disappeared. And I'm going to assignments because I was hoping that Katori had submitted her article. Did you submit that, Katori?
Yeah, I submitted it,
Good,
just
yeah,
earlier
because I
today.
had checked earlier. And yeah, only three of you submitted articles, so the rest of the students won't receive a grade. Here's Katori, so you're good. I have your written assignment, and I have your PowerPoint, and I have your actual article, so you're set up. So I'm going to turn on your PowerPoint. I'm going to have you present first, then we're going to go to our last case study. And then I'll go into chapter little bit on chapter 15, but I want to move to chapter 16 today. All right. So, Katori, you want to get started?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So, I did my PowerPoint presentation on job burnout, engagement, and turnover intention of
Hmm.
dietitians and chefs at a contract for food service management
I went
company.
online and I
It's a
tried.
mouthful. So, the first thing the article looked into was defining job stress.
Excuse me for a second. Curtis, can you, yeah, please leave. Thank you. All right. Okay, you can proceed.
Okay, so defining job stress. Job stress is any type of psychological stress that is work related, and prolonged exposure to job stress can cause psychological decay, which can also be identified as job burnout. So, job burnout is another common theme in the article. States that job burnout is defined as a syndrome of emotional exhaustion and cynicism that occurs frequently among individuals who do people work of some kind.
Mm.
Job burnout is particularly an issue for the food service management workers. So job burnout happens in three parts. The first part you experience is emotional exhaustion, which is exhaustion from an overload of work.
Mhm.
Depersonalization, which is separating a person from their personality, and diminished personal accomplishment, which is the lack of fulfilling personal accomplishments. So, emotional exhaustion is the lack of energy one feels when one emotional resources have been used up due to more pressing psychological needs. Depersonalization occurs from cynical and uncaring attitudes that cause one to view others as objects rather than human beings with
Mm.
feelings. You tend to lose your sense of empathy when you experience depersonalization. And finally, diminished personal accomplishment is the devaluing of oneself due to the failure to produce results or an accomplishment. So, how are these three related to job burnout? Emotional exhausted is related to job stress in reference to workload and time pressure, feeling that you have too much to work on and too little time to work on it. Depersonalization is related to interpersonal stress experienced from work related stress. And interpersonal stress is stress you feel from a coworker or someone else. It kind of is that interpersonal stress. And diminished personal accomplishment is related to how one values oneself in the workplace. If one fails to accomplish what they need to accomplish, that will diminish your personal value. And then there are other factors related to job stress. One being the workload and time pressure that we talked about. This can be seen in food service management as the number of hours you work and the number of clients that you provide to. And the social environment of your work environment plays also a huge role in job stress. So let's talk about the social environment in the workplace. It's directly related to job stress and burnout, but there are ways to improve a social environment to lower the rates of job burnout. These three things were proven to lower rates of job burnout, which was supportive coworker relationships, employee group work, and informal contact with coworkers. So job turnover is the one thing that is the biggest challenge of
Mm.
job burnout, and it's especially prevalent in food service management. It's defined as the replacing of one employee with a new employee, and it occurs when an employee resigns from their position or is terminated. So, like I said, it is a big challenge in the food service industry because food service industry does experience higher levels of workload and time pressure. And food service management tends to spend a great deal of time training their employees. Their employees have to be well trained. So when job turnover occurs, you have to spend that much more time training a new employee. It just takes up a lot of time and creates a bigger challenge. So now I get into the actual study that was conducted by the article authors. So it was a survey that they conducted to 257 employees of a contract food service management company. I have the demographics on the graph. You can see that 64 were dietitians and 87 were chefs. So you want to take a look at the graph. We have most of them were college graduates. Most of them were about age 20 to 30 years of age. And all of them had been working at the contract food service management company for at least 2 years. So the study itself consisted of multiple scale questions used to gauge the employee's burnout and engagement in the workplace. These scale questions were the 7-point scale, ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree. So you have the picture of an example scale at the bottom. So the example questions would consist of something like, I feel emotionally drained from my work. I want to do my job and not be bothered. In my opinion, I am good at my job and I will likely look for a new job within the next year.
Hmm.
So the results of the survey found that job stress was actually more prevalent in the dietitian work group rather than the chef work group. Um, this is likely because the dietitians conduct a much larger range of tasks compared to the chefs. These tasks include menu planning, scheduling, handling paperwork, nutrition and food safety, and attending to client needs. Dietitians also showed higher levels of interpersonal conflict and cynicism in the workplace compared to chefs. This is probably due to the fact that dietitians encounter a much more diverse group of people rather than the chefs. These are vendors, clients, and their own staff. On the other end of the spectrum, chefs rated higher in levels of self-efficacy, vigor, and dedication. So job stress, burnout, and turnover are all challenges that plague any job, but it's especially in the food service industry. And the information that this study provided will hopefully help to further understand job stress, especially in food service management, and hopefully help out the dietitians that tend to experience job stress a little bit more prevalent than the chefs of the workplace.
Interesting. Good article. Boy, did it cover a lot that we've discussed over the semester. Something came to mind. Oh, did the article mention whether, well, I'm sure the dietitians were salaried. Were the chefs salaried also?
You know what? It actually didn't mention any pay in the article at all. There was no
That would
mention
have
of
been
pay.
interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like this discussion because if a study does not address a certain factor, such as whether the dietitians were salaried versus the chef being hourly pay, or if they were both salaried, then we would see if those long hours were due to being salaried. You follow what I mean? Yeah. And those dietitians working over those 40 hours a week and just not being compensated, or were they given comp time? Because if you're salaried, that comp time, which we talked about all these, would be if you put in an hour or two one day, you could leave early another day or come in later. And that makes a difference because you need rest. And I find, like, some people say, oh, you teach, you do this, you do that. But I have my days of the week that are chill days. Yeah. May it be possibly a Friday. It won't be this Friday because I'm doing some consulting work, but it will most likely happen Saturday and or Sunday. So you've got to have some downtime. I've been there and done that, where I would work close to 6 or 7 days a week. Those were my younger years where, oh, I said, I want that extra money. After a while, I said, it's not worth it. And some of you probably have been there, where you say, oh, I'm going to work those extra hours, you know, I need extra money. And then come to find out, that burnout, I just love this article. That burnout just, number one, wears you down. And it's not always physical, it's mental, where the chefs do a lot of physical work. They do some mental, but there's physical. But I think a lot of this burnout was that, look, emotional exhaustion. And emotional exhaustion isn't necessarily that you're moving a lot. And you mentioned it. They're dealing with a lot of different people. They're dealing with they're planning the menu. So therefore, they're addressing patient or resident menu complaints. Then they're ordering food, so they're dealing with vendors, suppliers. They're going on the floors and they're doing nutrition assessments. So they are dealing with conflict in just about all the areas of their works. Where chefs have conflict, but definitely the article picked up the fact that they have more control over what's happening with their job. Yeah. I just love this article. And I'm going to definitely pull that article. I want to read the whole article because I just thought that it really covered a lot of territory, especially the leadership, because we talked about motivation and for these dietitians, I feel bad because I've been a dietitian in the food service industry, and I remember when I was a food service director, I experienced that burnout myself. And when I had the opportunity to become a consultant dietitian, I was so excited because I could work in multiple areas. And I would tell you the stress level reduced, but yet I think I just had newer issues to deal with as a consultant dietitian. I didn't have to hire and train the staff. And they said that turnover of staff, that's what really burned me out as a food service director, trying to keep your staff. And it was mostly my dishwashers, pot washers. My dietary aides were pretty consistent. My cooks were. I had cooks that had been with me or were there way before I came. So that wasn't bad. It was, I call them utility workers that work in the dish room. And some people say, well, how much do they need to know? They need to know quite a bit. It was some training there. But again, good article. Do you have any comments, Amanda?
I really liked it. I mean, because I can relate being in the dance industry, like to the whole
Yeah.
depersonalization thing, because you're just pushed to the brink and you're
Yes.
not given any break. Like it's just one after the other. It really completely burns you out. So
It does. And it's mental.
yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. If it was more physically, because exercise helps to relieve stress.
Yeah.
So if you were actually dancing, you probably could have, what would I say, switch some of that stress into being more physically active, getting your mind off of the issue and the problems while you're dancing. The same thing with exercise. But that mental burnout, just dealing with one problem after another, and you need vacation time. And sometimes you just need a change. I'm just going to say, and as a dietitian, working in the food service industry is great. Stay in that area as long as you can, and then you can go into consulting, you can branch out. And I found that I was still in the food service area, but I didn't have to be that person responsible for hiring and training and and I approved the menu. There were certain, and you know what, I felt that I was someone that could take some of the pressure off the food service director because I had been there. I could actually help them, and I would. They said, "Oh, I need work on the menu," and I said, "Well, I'll help you with the menu." Or their inventory system needed to be, revamped, and then I would address that. Of course, I would talk to the administrator. Administrator says definitely, take on that part, and it was delegated to me. So that's what dietitians get your experience in the food service industry. By all means, stay in it, but you need to know that part of the industry, the food service aspect. I enjoyed again being a food service director. Well, I'm a director now, in education, but I think it gives you that ability to gain leadership responsibility. Start in directing a dietary department, and if you can direct the dietary department, I think you're pretty skilled to go and be able to direct an educational setting, or you can community nutrition needs a lot of directors because they have so many nutrition community programs, and just being able to train, hire, and just take on those leadership responsibilities. Very important for you to get that experience. Great job. Thank you, Katori. Very, very good. Let's go to and I'm going to look and see, this is our last case study. And I'm pretty sure that the two of you submitted. You're seeing, yes, now Jacqueline's still with us. And of course, she presented her article. She works, but Jacqueline emails me. Okay, we still have Ty submitted. And Tram, okay, we still have people still, in the class. They're missing some of their other assignments, but they're still, okay. All right. So hopefully I tape all of our Zoom meetings, that if you're not present, please submit your missing assignments, such as your article presentation. As you can see, we only have 3 students that posted their article. And again, you can get credit for that. Here, you just select an article. I know you weren't here to present, but at least post your article itself, your written part, and the article itself. And if I go here, you can see that that Jacqueline, she presented her article. Her PowerPoint is missing, but she presented it. But I want to go to either Amanda Katori. See here how you you upload your her PDF is her paper itself. So this is her written paper. She posted her PowerPoint, and she uploaded the actual article itself. So this is the actual article, which I'm going to read. Not very long, but a lot of substance to it. And of course, this is how it's supposed to be presented. Here's Amanda, her PowerPoint, her written paper, summary of the article, and the actual article itself. So those of you that are not present, please still submit. If you don't, you get a 0, okay? I see that you did submit your case study. So let's go to our very last case study. And we're going to discuss our last case study, which is, and I'm going to bring it up, it's Regina, okay? And I can make this a little larger so that we can see. With Regina, she developed a checklist for employees several years ago, okay? So that she could track their daily job duties during orientation and time when work is slow in the kitchen. Employees have to complete these checklists and submit them to her. Not everything is accounted for on the checklist. It's Regina's expectations that all employees will pitch in and help during the stressful times and special events, and that all employees will perform cleaning duties, put stock away when they have time. Unfortunately, our employees are now fighting about who has responsibility for getting these extra things done. That can create a burnout in itself, can it? Yeah, going to work every day, and not only for Regina, but for the workers themselves. Regina knows that it would be impossible. Now, this is her thinking, to create a checklist that accounts for every possible situation that could arise in the kitchen. Sometimes employees come to her angrily demanding that she clear up all this confusion. The checklists say, work on getting prep done, because Regina knows that assigning specific and food products to prep would prove impossible due to the wide variation of what patients order each day. So for the past 2 years, Regina has attempted to make teamwork. So she wants them to work, as a team, the basis of everything in the kitchen. Some of her employees seem to take this seriously, at least short term, and others do not. Several employees have stated that they just come in to do their job and then they go home. Let's stop here. Katori just presented her article, and what was that? Impersonal, what was it, detachment? What's the term they use?
The depersonalization.
Depersonalization, yeah, where they're just separating themselves from the job. It's a way of, what would I say, just burying the head in the sand. You just don't want to be bothered. So yeah, you're just sort of they're saying it. I come to work and do what I got to do and go home. Yeah, that's definitely taking yourself out of the issue. Lately, Regina has noticed that not only are her employees not putting stock away appropriately, but they are almost seem to try to make as much of a mess as they can. Wow. She is finding pudding mixes in the cracker containers, frozen pancakes on the floor of the freezer, and etc. So now they're acting out, aren't they? Yeah. So this is what happens when people get frustrated. So very, very timely article that was presented today, because it definitely ties into this case study. So it's asking you, what should Regina do about all of these issues? So Amanda, choose at least 2 recommendations.
Well, the main issue here is, the employees are actually rebelling out against lack of organization and a lack of consistency. Because, every week or every day, they're like, okay, this is my list. This is all that I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
I suggested, if she had not already had employees sign off on rules, regulations, and procedures, hiring that definitely needs to be initiated if it hasn't been already. Just to make sure everyone's on the same page, she should also
Mhm.
have posted procedures. And I thought it would be good if she could delegate certain tasks that aren't on these checklists
Mhm.
in areas of the kitchen, like prep cooks. At the end of the day, I don't care like who does it, but the prep cooks need to finish XYZ. The
Mhm.
head chefs, the meat chefs who's working on vegetables need to do this and that so that they can go
Mhm. Mhm.
depending on what's being cooked per day and address that.
So what I'm hearing, Amanda brought out some really good points. Number one, just with orientation and training, just that's policy and procedure, that there is a checklist, and you are required to complete that checklist on a daily basis and sign. Yeah, sign off and verify that they did do it. You also brought up the fact that things that aren't on that checklist, to separate it in different areas. If it's where the prep cooks or the chefs are working, then there are additional tasks that they either just do, but they need to sign who's doing it. And I'm gonna add one more thing. Nobody clocks out or leaves until those jobs are done. So you don't just clock out and leave, and then somebody's left because they happen to didn't get to the time clock before the other person, or just didn't leave before the other person. No, nobody leaves until those additional tasks have been completed. And yes, you do want to know who completed those jobs. When they have to sign, after a while, it's going to be part of their performance. So if I never see somebody volunteering to do those extra cleaning responsibilities, then you'll see that they're doing bare minimal. Yeah. So very, very good, Amanda. What do you have, Katori?
So my first point was along the same lines as
Mhm.
Amanda. Her prep checklist, I know the case study stated that she can't make it specific because there's such a wide variety, but she needs to make it more specific than prep work done.
Yeah.
That's just way too broad.
Good.
One way suggested for that is her patients that order the food, she can try to like figure out what's a very popular food or
Mhm.
what gets ordered on average.
Mhm.
That way she can at least have that on the prep list.
Mhm.
Say if like a Greek salad is ordered most often, make sure you have that prepped.
Mhm.
And then I did tie it into the article that I just read because I saw a lot of similarities.
A lot
Yeah.
of information. Yes.
So probably the biggest similarity is her employees' lack of morale.
Mm.
They really don't have any. They just, like I said, do their job and go home. One of the things, according to my article, that could boost morale is group work within the
Mm.
kitchen. I
Mhm.
think to get everything prepped and everything done, it should be worked on in groups. That
Yes.
way, the
Yes.
responsibility, they're fighting over like responsibility and putting
Mhm.
responsibilities on someone else. And it was either you or Amanda mentioned like no one can clock out until everything is done.
Mhm.
So that's a sense of group work, like working
Mhm.
on the prep list together to make sure it's all done.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
responsibility is shared.
Mhm. Your article really related to this case study.
Mhm.
It was amazing how it was so much in your article that was related to what's happening with Regina and what's happening to everybody. Everybody has had enough. Yeah. because it even said that initially the workers would take on those extra jobs for a short period of time. And then they said, the heck with this. But again, signing. And when you see someone's, picking up on that extra work, you thank them. You somehow give them an incentive. But again, but that team, and Katori brought it up, that she wants them to work as a team, but she's got to train and teach them how to be a team. Yeah, because even with our program in the educational setting, I have group projects. That's helping students when they go out in their profession. May they be a DTR, eventually an RD. It could be a dental hygiene student. It could be a nursing student. When you go on the job, you've got to work as a team. And the same thing with projects. I have students, oh, I'm way too busy. They have every excuse known to man, but we all have busy schedules, but we all have to feel that everybody's got to be responsible. And this area in the kitchen, you all work in this area. So therefore, we work as a team. We're not going to leave until all this work is done. And even if they had like a little meeting and they rotate the job, oh, Mary, you did it yesterday, so I'll do it today. And then so-and-so does it. And that's teamwork. And when you take dietetic foundations, we talk about the difference between a group and a team, and how a team has a common goal. And that common goal is making sure that all of the tasks, whether they're on the checklist or not, and I'm glad you addressed the checklist needs to be updated on a regular basis, especially when you're starting to see that things aren't being done. Look at your checklist, be more specific, add some, because I don't think anything, look, 2 years ago, she made that checklist. Things change. So, according to her, everybody needs to pick up on things that aren't on that checklist. But no, you revise that checklist. And yes, there's going to be some things that might not be specifically on there. That's where the teamwork comes into play. Yeah, that's when the teamwork comes in, and rotating jobs and signing so that management can see who's actually contributing and who's not. And again, they know that there's consequences. Say overtime, somebody wants additional hours. Well, I'm going to give Mary, she asked for overtime. Well, why can't I get overtime? I said, well, you need to put in extra effort. Because if somebody's going to work overtime, I really want a good worker to do that extra time, because I know the kitchen's going to be left clean and the jobs are going to be done. You really don't want to give overtime to somebody that's just going to do minimal. That's a little common sense there. But a good job, good job. Anybody want to add something that we didn't address? I think we did good. And we always have meetings, and we always bring individuals in on a one-to-one basis. Yes, because it may be, sometimes it only takes one, maybe two people to disrupt an operation. Because it said initially there were many, some of them that would do that extra work, but they put their hands up because other people weren't doing it. So again, I think her problem can be, it's not a big problem, is what I'm saying. It is, but it can be corrected with several things in place. Good job, good job. Now, what I want to do is go to our PowerPoints, and I just want to go back to chapter 15 just to highlight some of the legislation. Because remember, I didn't test you on the legislation. I want you to go into your textbook, and I have my textbook handy. And it is in chapter 15 where I felt that you just need to read and you need to, what would I say, review and study and do some memorization. And it has to do with those regulations. And they started on or about page, I'm almost there, page 396, okay? 396, you have the labor policies and legislation. And some of this legislation we talked about when it came to staffing. For example, on page 396, they talk about the labor policies, and it is the hourly pay, remember? And it's the minimum wage. So minimum wage is discussed on this page. And I thought it was, well, quite interesting. Oh, where is it? Where minimum pay started out to be, did it say $1? Where is it? Where is it? Why can't I find that in the paragraph? Accepted, problems, policies. Okay, but minimum wage is discussed on page 396. And of course, that's still a huge issue in this country. Trying to get minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. Federally, it's still around 7 something. We know here in the state of New Jersey, it's on its way to be $15. I think it's 11 or 12 now, but it's gradually going up. So, individuals are somewhat fortunate in this state compared to other states that keep right at that federal minimum wage. But read all your different policies and procedures, wages and income maintenance. That's on page 397. It's on page 398. I didn't go far enough. The Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938, and it's right on page 398. And it talked about during the Great Depression, the minimum wage set at that time was 40 cents per hour. Can you imagine 40 cents per hour? And then it talked about the act was amended in 1966 under new provisions. Most food service employees were included for the first time. The minimum wage that year was $1.60. So you can see we've come a long way, but we know that that minimum wage has not been increased on the federal level for a number of years. And the cost of living goes up. You know, the cost of everything. Trust me, you don't want to hear what what a hot dog, a hamburger was back when I was a child. My mom used to give me a quarter every day, and with that quarter, we could get a bag of chips, we could get a hot dog, because yeah, a hamburger might have been 10 cents, or a 25 cents went a long way. And then my cousins and I, we would save our 25 cents every day. And then on Friday, we would go to a sub shop, that was our treat. But people saying a quarter. And then in college, my mom used to send me $20 a week. $20 a week is nothing anymore. And my friends in college thought I was really doing good, getting $20 a week, and I would collect my $20 up because my meals were already paid for. I went to college cafeteria, so I'm really showing my age here. But the cost of living goes up, and again, read about that. As you move to page 399, it talks about equal employment opportunity, the EEO. And this is when we started, again, making sure, and and that's in this chapter, why we don't discriminate. We don't ask age, we don't ask gender, we don't ask marital status, religion, nationality, because again, that equal employment opportunity, you don't want to show any signs of discrimination. We have the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and this provides guidance to management for competence with the EEO statutes. And then we have the Americans with Disability Act. So therefore, we cannot be discriminating against people that have any impairments. May it be visually impaired, hearing, impaired mobility. We have job specifications. Now, if that person does not meet the job specifications, that's different. If the job specifications, it's that this person will have to stand over a certain amount of hours, they'll have to lift a certain amount of weight, then yes, if someone has certain disabilities, then another job would be more, what would I say, related to their abilities. So as long as a person has the abilities to do a job, they're not to be discriminated, and you need to have clear specifications. That's just like if you have 2 years of experience. If somebody doesn't have the 2 years experience, then it's justifiable why you may not hire them. So again, we have to really be careful. Then on page 400, we have sexual harassment. So not only is it sexual harassment, but it's any harassment at all. Unwanted sexual advances are casual, verbal, or physical conduct of a sexual nature. That is still an area that people just are, I guess, clueless. And all of these areas have to be part of orientation and training. It's up to that organization to, number one, when it comes to training of those who are a part of the hiring process, they have to be trained as far as equal employment opportunities, the Disabilities Act. They have to be trained about harassment, may it be sexually or just intimidating people, just people feeling uncomfortable. You know, it could be somebody just calling you out of your name, calling you. Well, I work somewhere, and I can't call any names. This person wouldn't remember the names of the students, so he would call female students toots. I said, "Oh, no, 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 no." I said, "Don't call them that. Why not? I can't remember their name." I said, "Well, we'll say young lady or something of that nature, because I'm terrible with names, but I'm not gonna just come up and just give you a name, okay? Um, or you can say, "Excuse me, I forgot your name," but don't just call them things. And no improper touching, just bugging somebody is a form of harassment. So again, quotas, this is at the bottom of page 400, and this has to do with, and we talked about that in our PowerPoint when we were talking about the multicultural organization. That is not just making sure you're hiring adequate numbers of males or females or different ages or people from different nationalities. It's not all about quotas. It's about making sure that that person is being valued and that they are participating as an equal member of that organization. So again, they talked about, and quotas started with the fact that there were organizations that were predominantly all male. And they said, well, you need to get some females hired. Or predominantly all white, well, you need to get some minorities, employed or so forth. So again, all of this has to be trained. Employee services and benefits, read through that. A lot of it coincides with the information that was in the workforce PowerPoint. Was very important. Also, page 402, the Occupational Safety and Health Act. That's your OSHA. So this chapter has a lot of legislation in it, and I want you to memorize each one, because when you sit for the DTR exam or you sit for the CDM to be a certified dietary manager, they are big on these legislation, because they know that within the food service industry and really throughout all of our organizations, these different agencies have to be, you have to be familiar with it. And the Occupational Safety and Health Act, that's your OSHA, requires employees to furnish employment free from safety hazards. So again, there are a lot of OSHA regulations. Generally, you have that food service director or someone be an OSHA representative, where they go to OSHA meetings and then they bring back new information, and it's shared with the entire department. So OSHA requirements do change. There's additional things that have to be addressed. We have the workers' compensation insurance. That means that if you work somewhere, they will have what we call workman's comp. If you get injured on the job, there should be your place of employment should pay for the medical expenses. There was one time that I used a workman comp because I got hurt on the job, and they paid for new glasses because my glasses got broke. You know, they paid for my visit to the emergency room, things of that nature. Thank goodness it wasn't serious, and it wasn't something that was a permanent disability. When it comes to workman comp, it ties in with OSHA because it's an insurance, it's a premium that you have to pay. And if you don't show that you're training, you're repairing, your facilities, and that you're not preventing injuries. As a food service director, I trained on how to mop the floor and making sure you put the mop signs up so that people know the floor is wet. I used to train on knife skills, how to, because if you don't have that training in place, someone gets hurt, you'll have quite a number of injuries. That insurance company is going to hold you liable and your premiums are going to go up. So training is extremely important. Then we have Social Security. Read about that, and of course that's the protects wage earners and their families against loss of income due to age, disability, and death. So again, Social Security. So what where you work takes out a certain amount out of your pay to go into your Social Security. So all of these different legislations are extremely important for you to be aware of. As you move to page 403, it talks about your National Labor Relations Act. This is when people or employees found that they needed to join together and focus on their working conditions. So that's when unions started to form, where employees just did not have proper representation. And of course, management just thought about management needs, but what about working conditions? What about fair wages? So it's looking at all of the needs of the employees, and they found that if we didn't address these needs, management won't. And so definitely read about, just that the National Labor Relations Board regulates the right of employees to join a union, provides for collective bargaining, also known as the Wagner Act. So they love to use the word Wagner Act to throw you off there. But the Wagner Act is also known as the National Labor Relations Act. Then if you turn on page 404, we have the Labor Management Relations. That prevents unions from coercing employees to join. When it comes to a union, it is not mandated that everybody join. But what we do as a union, we invite new workers when they're new to join the union. We give them the application, we invite them to union meetings. We want employees to feel that this is a benefit, which they're going to get the same benefits whether you're in the union or not, just to let you know. But we want them to realize that in numbers you have power. And the more people that are in the union, you have a say in your work conditions. It gives that union just more leverage. The more people, can you imagine only having 5 people in a union, and maybe it's 400 or 500 people, and people just opt not to pay union dues. You're not gonna have very good representation there. So most places that are unionized, they're 80% or so. So yeah, we're not unless I'm a little out of touch, but usually it's 80, close to 90% of your employees do choose to be in a union. It is the Taft-Hartley Act that is also known as the Labor Management Relations. That's the one that prevents the unions from coercing employees to join. So they can't force someone to join, okay? Then there's the union shop, a legal practice that requires an employee to become a member of the union in order to keep a job. So you can't tell people, oh, well, you can't work here if you're not part of the union. I know you're new, but around here, you can't continue. Yeah, that's against the law. Closed shop, a legal practice that obligates employer to hire only union members. So that means that they can't make you join a union upon being hired, okay? And then the collective bargaining and obligation to meet and discuss terms with an open mind. So that's between the union and management. They need to be able to sit at the table and hear both sides. What do management need? What does the employees need? And we call that collective bargaining. Right to work law statutes enabled by some states that prohibit employers from excluding non-union workers from requiring employees to pay fees to the union. So they have layered different regulations because years ago, they used to get around certain legislation and they said, well, we have to come up with another legislation to prevent that. And then lastly, in this area, we have the Labor Management Reporting and Disclosure Act contains a Bill of Rights for union members that require financial disclosures. It prescribes union offers, election procedures, provide civil and criminal remedies for financial abuses, and also known as the Landrum-Griffin Act. So we have 3 legislation that go by a different name. So please study and memorize. On page 405, we have a table 15.1, selected labor legislation classified by the relevant area of human resource management. And that's definitely a good table to look at, and it will help you, come up with what areas that legislation falls under, okay? So that was my overview of legislation. Your next test, I will touch on some of that information. So I may ask you about unions, I may ask you about OSHA, it may have something to do with, the Fair Labor Acts. So make sure that you go back and review. Now, I'm running out of time. Wow. So I do want to open up chapter 16 because next week, we don't have any case studies. We don't have any articles that need to be presented. And I want you to read chapter 16. Chapter 16, and it's opening up slowly, and it may not open up in time for me to give you a quick overview, but it has to do with efficiency. Yeah, performance improvement. And efficiency is in there. Performance improvement is very, very important. That's why we train. That's why we monitor. That's in this particular chapter, if we look at our management theories, where performance improvement probably was somewhat in classical, but they didn't have any data. You know, they would watch their employees perform different tasks, and they would say, well, this person needs to be more efficient. This person needs to be more accurate. But as we moved into the management science research, that's when they started recording data. So you'll see that we need to study our departments. We need to, keep data on job performance. And we talked a little bit about that with the cleaning schedule with Regina, didn't we? That she needs to have them sign so that she has a record of who's actually doing their job and performing these duties. So I will not start this chapter, but I will start and finish this chapter when we meet on May 4th. Our last class is the 11th. So I really read, and I would still have to complete chapter 16, 17, and 18. All right. So I want to be able to cover all of 16 next week, go into chapter 17, the following week, finish 17, and go to chapter 18. Fair enough. And hopefully those who have not been attending, you're reviewing the Zoom meetings. And I have been recording all of the Zoom meetings. And just to share my screen, all Zoom meetings, so you can see that I've been recording them since mid-February. Very well. I have all of March. I have all of April. I will be posting today's. So again, it's just that the Zoom meetings are recorded for those who cannot attend because of job, mostly job, but maybe other obligations that prevent you from attending. And thank you, Amanda and Katori, as usual, for attending. All right, I really appreciate it. And guess what? It's going to pay off at the end. Yeah, it is already paying off. You're both doing very, very well. And again, I think both of you are, you know what you may need to take in the summer. Some of you might be off for the summer, but you're set for the fall semester. You know exactly what you need to take.
Yeah, I'm all registered for summer.
Good, good. Katori, you're good for the fall?
Yeah, I have everything.
Very good. Yeah, I want you to stay on pace so we can get you graduated. That's the key. You're not wasting your time here. You want to get, through the program and, out there as a professional. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Bye.
take care.